Airy. It is 7 o'clock on November 7th. We are gathered tonight for a public hearing. The public hearing is on the Annex Resolution 2022-45. This is 8.3360 acres of land, more or less, situated along the northerly and easterly side of Buffalo Road. We have two speakers that would like to participate in this public hearing. First up is Jerry. Okay. Then we'll go over to Clark.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Clark Schaefer here on behalf of Doc Full and family. They're the applicants for the annexation. I'll be brief. This property checks literally all of the planning check boxes for this kind of thing. It's in the designated town boundary. It's designated for the land use of low-density residential. The proposal that the zoning that we've asked for R2 would technically allow more units than the county's R40 zoning. But we are proposing to proceed under your section 9823, which is your cluster provision, which will allow a density almost identical, similar to the density allowed in the county's R40 zoning, but yet will create a pretty large open space parcel. And so, in and of itself, we would ask you to favorably consider it. The clincher, at least for me, and I hope for you, is that this property should develop and should be part of the town, given its location, given its designation in your master plan as a future area, and most importantly, you or as a corporate body, you are sovereign in the town. You're not outside of the town. Now, I'm not saying that the county's renegade, but what I am saying is that once it's in, you control it. It's under your subdivision regulations, your planning regulations, your zoning regulations, not the county's. And I think that's the way it should be. I think that's probably why it was designated in your master plan as a future annexation area. So that's really all I have to say. Ask you to favorably consider the annexation, and then we will start the lengthy development review process, at which time the technical details will be reviewed, approved or disapproved, and I know you're all familiar with that process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have a little bit of extra time. Did anyone else or would like to speak on this annexation resolution? Okay.
Looks like Ron Thompson.
Can't resist speaking. Ron Thompson, Vanmar Associates. I wanted to add a couple other items to what Clark just said. Recognize that the proposed subdivision, if adopted by the town of Mount Airy, which we hope, would be developed under Chapter 9823, which is your cluster zoning. The maximum number of lots that we can get on the property, which was in the packet, just continue to reinforce, is 9 lots of low density development. We anticipate as we would move through the town of Mount Airy planning process, that we would need to address utilities, water availability, as well as off-site improvements. Typically, you have to widen the road to within your property to the standard that the town is looking for that width. And I think they've talked about adding a bike lane with there. These are really, someone mentioned last time they were worried about the conditions. These are kind of standard conditions that we deal with every concept plan that's developed. So again, we would hope that when the time comes that you would vote in approval of the annexation. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. And for those, I don't know if the people at home can see, but even those that are in the audience this evening, those are the Summit Ridge ball fields there. And so that's where this location backs up to, along Buffalo Road, just to give people a better idea there. Excuse me. So Mr. Thompson was the last one. And Mr. Thompson, I did just note your name as well as your business for the record. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this annexation resolution? All right, fantastic. I'll go ahead and close this. Excuse me. I will go ahead and close this public hearing on Annex Resolution 2022-45, which is the 8.3360 acres of land, more or less, situated along the northerly and easterly side of Buffalo Road. And we will go ahead and begin with our regularly scheduled town council meeting at 7:30. Thank you. We good? Awesome. Good evening, Mount Airy. Good evening, all those that are attending tonight in person, and then all those following us online. This meeting is broadcast on local channel 23. It is also on Carroll Media Center. And tonight we are on the town Facebook page live as well. Earlier this evening at 7 o'clock, we had an Annex Resolution 2022-45. This is talking about the 8.3360 acres along Buffalo Road. And thank you to those who attended that meeting. I would like to call this meeting to order. So if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, I'll turn this over to you for a proclamation.
I have to give you a task. Your task is to make sure he gets that card.
I have one task. Got it.
All right, we're looking for, test, Patrol Officer First Class Neil Klezak. Please come forward. Good to see you. Chief, would you come up as well? What we have here is a proclamation for you for an outstanding job performed in September. On September 19, 2022, Patrol Officer First Class Neil Klezak was conducting a routine follow-up on a theft investigation. During an interview with the victim, PFC Klezak was made aware of some extremely concerning information regarding other family members. It was noted that a family member was researching the means and mechanisms to make an improvised explosive device. After PFC Klezak verified the legitimacy of the concern, he compiled the information, quickly assembled a detailed report, and forwarded the information to the FBI and the ATF. He also notified other pertinent jurisdictions of the potential illegal and harmful activities. His steadfast and professional actions led to the arrest of 2 individuals by the Baltimore County Police Department. The arrested individuals were found to be in possession of an explosive device, a handgun, and several magazines of ammunition. Further investigation revealed additive explosive making materials and quantities of illicit drugs in the accused person's motel room. Had it not been for the quick thinking and resourceful gathering of information by PFC Klezak, a massive tragedy would have undoubtedly occurred in a residential neighborhood within our town's borders. Based on the collection of evidence, the bomb blast could have impacted residences and businesses within nearly a half-mile radius. The citizens of Mount Airy wish to extend their sincerest appreciation for PFC CLESAC's service to our community, and in that regard, the town's elected officials have created this proclamation for an outstanding officer and a job well done. And the good news is the council president has something of more value than this.
Actually, it looks like Chick-fil-A.
It is a $50 gift card to Memory.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, fantastic. Before we get into the rest of our agenda, I just want to make a couple notes. We're going to be canceling our year in review, which was a presentation that was going to be from Mayor Hushhour. We do have a Frederick County representative here with hazard mitigation, and we're going to move up Resolution 2022-9 so that this gentleman can go on with his business. And while we are scheduling charter amendment, under new business, before we get to the discussion of Beck property, I need to do a reschedule of the January 9th meeting. So I just want to make those notes for the public as we go through our agenda this evening. Next up, after presentations, we have public comment. During this time, you can address the council on what you would like, gathering the size of our attendance this evening. I'm going to request that residents keep in mind of a 2-minute time limit. And if you can just be up with your 2 minutes and then move on so that we can hear everyone else's concerns, that would be very much appreciated. During this time, just remember that this is just for us to listen to you and not to address any necessary concerns. So with that being said, if you have a public comment, you may come on up, excuse me, you may come on up to the podium and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you. Ron Thompson, Van Mar Associates.
Ron, can you just, hold on, I got to pull up my stopwatch here, man. I appreciate it. All right, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Van Mar submitted a proposed text amendment 2022-31 in the last town council meeting to allow an indoor shooting range in the industrial district. This proposed text amendment was part of the October 12th council agenda. At the time, it did not receive a second vote to send it to the Planning Commission to be fully vetted and reviewed. On behalf of the owners of Lot 14A, King State LLC, we are requesting that this receive its second vote to allow it to go to a Planning Commission to be fully vetted. There are a number of benefits. The text amendment was to allow an indoor shooting range, does not permit shooting outdoors. The indoor shooting ranges are highly regulated facilities, staffed and overseen by professionals. Safety begins when you enter the facility, where guns are checked at the front desk, and shooting in the range is supervised by a trained professional. The amendment was developed to ensure adequate separation from adjoining residential properties, to ensure the privacy and safety of residential properties. The amendment required the shooting range be a minimum of 200 feet from residential structures, which would have ruled that out from being in industrial property, abutting industrial properties, particularly Backacre Circle along where all the townhomes are.
30 seconds.
Well, Indoor shooting range provides a safe environment, has health benefits, arm and hand strength, helps you have focused meditation, gain confidence, physical balance, and de-stress and have fun. In summary, they're highly regulated sports facilities where professionals ensure the highest levels of safety and operation. Request reconsideration of sending this text amendment to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Good evening. Roxanne Hemphill. I am the chairperson for the Planning Commission. I'm here to thank the mayor and the council for the opportunity for the Planning Commission to attend the 39th MPCA annual convention, which happened back in October. I want to tell you that there were 6 of us that attended from the commission that attended various times during the 2-day period. I think that shows, and I appreciate the commission members for doing that. It shows that they're taking the time out of their own schedule to, it shows a desire for them to become better informed about the planning processes, and I really do appreciate that. At this meeting, there was a business meeting, and the following members of the board of that MPCA were voted in as officers. They include Danny Winborn, who is president. He's is in the city of Gaithersburg. Bill Butts is the vice president. Of course, he's from Mount Airy. Myself as secretary, which is from Mount Airy, and Doug Wright from the city of Hagerstown. So once again, we thank you for allowing us to attend, and hopefully maybe some of you can attend next year as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, Town Council members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in the open session this evening. Let me introduce myself. My name is Christina King. This is my husband, John King. We are Mount Airy residents, and we've lived in Mount Airy for 18 years. We are also business owners. Our company, King Sports Construction, is the premier artificial turf field builder in the Mid-Atlantic region. We have been in business for 23 years. Recently, we made an exciting decision to move our company's physical location from Montgomery County, Maryland, into the town of Mount Airy. We purchased 2 lots in the Twin Arch Industrial Park. Lot 15, which is being used for King Sports operating day-to-day business. And we also purchased Lot 14A. This is where we are proposing an indoor target range open to the public. This facility we are proposing would be state-of-the-art, consisting of 2 levels. A lower level would be for the indoor target lanes, and the upper level would be for classrooms offering safety training, self-defense courses, and a lobby area. We know this type of facility would be very welcome business in Mount Airy, as we've done a community survey on October 24th, 2022, just 2 weeks ago. In our survey, we asked the community to voice their opinions if they would be for or against this type of business
30 seconds.
in Mount Airy. The response was overwhelmingly positive, very favorable. We had many comments from Mount Airy residents as well as from close by area residents. There were a few comments from those who were not gun owners or who didn't consider themselves pro-gun but would be interested in learning about gun safety and for themselves and their families, and
Please
they would
wrap up.
welcome this type of business. We greatly appreciated all the community's comments. Do I need to stop?
Yeah, if you could just, one final thought would be fine.
Okay, I would be remiss to say that it would be an honor for us to provide and support not only the citizens of Mount Airy, but also our local police force and other policing units, our military members, people in security professions, and weapon instructors with a professional, safe facility to hone the necessary skills, which we all rely on to keep ourselves and our families and communities safe. And so with this, it's our intent tonight to ask you for reconsideration of this text amendment in ordinance number 2022-31. Thank you.
Thank you. I got the timer. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Susie Floyd. I'm here on behalf of the Kings. Just to talk to you a little bit about any safety concerns you'd be worried about. I'm a professional firearms instructor and have been teaching people in the surrounding counties for over 12 years. I'm a chief range safety officer, which means I teach and certify range safety officers. I've also served 2 terms on the Montgomery County Firearms Safety Committee, which is a task force that will certify and maintain safety standards for public as well as private ranges. So I'd say I have a good amount of experience. I've also competed for Maryland Rifle Club and competed also in 2 NRA World Shooting Championships in 2017 and 18. I think based on my professional experience, an indoor range such as they're proposing does not expose the community to any potential threat at all from stray rounds or any noise complaints whatsoever. Just wanted to say that. So thank you for listening.
Hi, Dave Pyatt, 705 Park Avenue. I had a letter, but I don't think I'm going to be able to read the whole thing. I'll just state my conclusions. The odds of a suitable water supply in Beck East, one that could supply 582 residential dwellings and some commercial usage as well, is significantly less than 50-50. I say this based on my experience as previous council liaisons with the Water and Sewer Department and Planning Commission, and my engineering and hydrological background, and includes negotiations with the Maryland Department of the Environment during the drought of the early 2000s. The town is left with the Hobson's choice, and one they don't seem to grasp, between which end to achieve and what to sacrifice. Obviously, water capacity and viability has to have priority. The odds of ever achieving mixed-use zoning and Center Street are quite low with the current site plan. And one other point, Mr. Robert Peoples, Director of Maryland Department of the Environment, Water Allocations, who I spoke with as a private citizen on August 3rd.
30 seconds.
And again on November 2nd, stressed how critical the pumping data and site information is in accessing water allocation. He was very concerned that our town code would allow this development process to go on in our existing manner. Every other town, or most towns, have a process that they have to guarantee the water up front before they go to MDE. This is a very serious issue, and I think the town is taking this very lightly, and in the end, we're going to pay a price for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Michael O'Brien, 806 Park Avenue. I'm up here because there was a recent breaking and entering of a car at Watkins Park while the car owner was gone walking less than a half an hour. I'm concerned what negative implications this might have on people's fear of walking in the park or secluded trails, especially with our trail coming online. This suggests to me that the town must be proactive with a tangible and very public plan to reassure citizens and put the bad guys on notice that Mount Airy is on top of providing the securities for our parks and trails. Thank you.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, I want to go on the record. I love your tie. It's a great tie.
Hold on. Let me start this because that was a compliment. Hold on a second. No, I was just joking.
Do I get 10 extra seconds for that?
Yeah. 30 seconds, just
All
joking.
right, my name is Paul Stepp, and I'm here to talk about the indoor range. I've known the King family for almost 40 years. I can't believe I just said that on the record. I'm a retired police officer. I spent time in Baltimore City and Howard County. And I'm not a big gun proponent. I worked the drug unit in South Baltimore, so I can tell you, I've seen the violence that guns can present. That being said, I think an indoor range, what it brings is, it brings, if it's staffed correctly, it can bring safety. They teach safety. They talk about storage, proper storage to prevent theft, which is important. The responsibility of gun ownership. They teach the liability of owning a gun or losing a gun or not handling a gun properly. And also the criminal penalties that encompass all those. So it's a big responsibility. But also, you have to look at some of the statistics. Between January 2020 and April 20th of this year, 5.1 million Americans bought their first gun. Since the pandemic, gun sales, according to the FBI, have risen to 2 million per month. So I think we almost have a civic responsibility to ensure that our public has a place to go where they learn about gun safety, where they can test their firearms and get to know their firearms in a safe environment and in a controlled environment, not in a backyard, not in the woods. And
30 seconds, please.
okay, and I can tell you the King's family doesn't stop there. They give back to the community. They really do. They truly do. I've seen it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hello, Town Council. I'm Nicole Moon, 405 Windy Knoll Drive. And I'm here representing, one of the citizens representing Citizens Against Mount Airy Overdevelopment. Previously, you knew our Facebook group as Residents for Smart Growth. I wanted to, since I've been on hiatus after having the baby, we have organized a little more and grown. And so I wanted to read you our vision and mission statement and our statement on the current back property. Our vision statement is that CAMO, that's the acronym, envisions Mount Airy as a thriving community that values open space and preservation of the small town charm. Our mission statement is that we inform, educate, and mobilize citizens to work collaboratively and promote transparency in Mount Airy government and activities related to growth and development. As far as the Beck property, CAMO believes that the Beck property planning process should restart given there is a new development team, a new pre-concept plan, and to provide fairness to the community. CAMO requests the Planning Commission offer a charrette, or Town Council, sorry, offer a charrette with public comment for the new property development team. It is unfair the Mount Airy community with a new developer move forward with the Planning Commission workshop without public comment for a new pre-concept plan. We also recommend there be no waivers to the APFO standards for open space because the town is currently in a significant deficit for open space. That also, I would like to just mention the ordinance number 2022-25, which is going to hopefully
30 seconds, please.
give our MXD ordinance a little bit more of the town's control rather than the developer's control. I urge the council to please work with the Planning Commission to have a workshop or a public hearing so that we may be able to have some input into this ordinance that is so detrimental to our town. Because if not, we're just going to have the same issue over and over. Because looking at that concept plan, it looks exactly like the first concept plan the Kaz brothers brought. And we're just going to keep
Please wrap up.
doing the same thing over and over. So we'd like to at least change the ordinance itself. That way we don't have this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. Mr. Mayor. My name is Sean Kelly, 306 Springgate Court. I'm also with Citizens Against Mount Airy Overdevelopment, and I wanted to relay our stance on the role of the mayor and related town charter amendments. CAMO is opposed to any town charter amendments that will change the role of the mayor and reduce or remove responsibilities from the elected chief executive and financial officer of the town. Responsibilities such as appointments, financial decisions, and hiring and terminating town staff should not be reduced or removed. CAMO believes that the current effort to change the town charter regarding mayoral powers should be tabled so that the council, mayor, and staff can focus on the myriad of zoning, ordinance, and town resource challenges inherent in the development projects that are being proposed or underway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
I also am a representative of, I'm Monica Mansfield. I'm also a representative of CAMO, Citizens Against Mount Airy Overdevelopment. I'm going to convey to you the statement that we have created on the Mount Airy planning and zoning process. CAMO believes the town council should implement a new ordinance to bring a common sense approach to change the zoning process to, quote, put the horse before the cart, because currently the cart is in front of the horse. That provides assurance any proposed development project meets the adequate public facilities ordinance, APFO, and Maryland Department of Environment, MDE. Recommendation for water availability and other key infrastructure areas before proceeding to any pre-concept plan. The current process is a financial burden to the town and developers because officials and staff proceed with the planning process and make decisions on pre-concept plans prior to being fully informed about water availability and other infrastructure areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane Perney. I'm sure you all know me. I hate this thing.
Yeah, we have to thank you.
Okay. I'm sure you all are sick of hearing from us about what we consider egregious building. And as everybody's noticed on Facebook, a lot of you don't even care to look at the people who are talking here anymore. Thank you. That is unacceptable for a town council. You need to listen to those of us who have voted you in. I have a couple things I need to say. We live in a bedroom community. This isn't Rockville, this isn't Frederick, this isn't Westminster. Mount Airy is a bedroom community. We don't want the big growth. We don't want these box stores. We don't need them. We moved here because it's a bedroom community. What you're planning so far is going to increase our population by 21%. You might as well build a new Mount Airy. And what everybody doesn't realize is that the town administrator and the Carroll County administrator are planning on annexing in the Harrison-Lashire. That's where they're getting your water. That's where you're getting green space. You'll get 60 acres of wetland, and that's what you're going to get out of the Harrison-Lashire space. That's 258 acres, by the way. It doubles everything that you're planning so far. That's a lot of building in a small amount of time. I've noticed an uptick in the public being upset about kids doing things, like riding dirt bikes. We actually had a helicopter chasing dirt bikes around our town. The reason that's happening is we have nothing for our adolescent kids to do. We don't have enough sports lots for them. They have nothing to do. I rode dirt bikes when I was a kid on the road, sorry.
Can you please wrap up?
But you need to give them, it's your business to give our kids something to do. You can't add kids to this town and not do anything for them. As for the Flatiron building, the only reason everybody wants it demolished is because Larry doesn't. That's the only reason. Stop the foolishness. Let's get the work of town done. Thank you.
musical chairs. Hi, I'm Amy Witter. Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. Good evening. Many items are up for discussion and review tonight, and several are quite important. Beginning with the Beck property. With the change in developers, the addition of an architectural firm, and the submittal of new design drawings, the Beck property discussion should revert back to the charrette phase. Citizens should have the right to review the drawings and to ask questions of the new development team, just as we had done with the previous developer. Given the proposed development of this property will significantly forever change the landscape of our town, this process should not be rushed. Ironically, the MXD mess we find ourselves in now was due to rushing through the zoning changes when there was no sitting mayor. If we can't turn back the rushed decision regarding the rezoning of this property, the very least that should be done is to proceed with thoughtfulness, prudence, and an abundance of caution. The needs of the citizens should unequivocally come before the wants of the developer. The current proposed charter amendments are another source of significant change being discussed. It is beyond the pale that the executive branch of our local government is being attacked and minimized to the point of being nullified. There is a reason for checks and balances in government, and this council seems to be losing sight of this. Charter amendments are the backbone of our town government and should not be used as a pawn by those who have ulterior motives. Should this go to referendum, the citizens are ready to make their stance known. Town council and many commissions repeatedly ask for citizen input, yet seem to balk when input is provided. The citizens are speaking. Are you listening? We are asking for minimal controlled growth. We are asking for our APFO requirements to be met, not waived. We are asking for our town's history to be revered, not reversed. We are asking for our mayor to be supported, not maligned. We are asking for transparency and communication, not for the bits and pieces that we are routinely fed. We are asking for our council to support our vision for our town, just as you asked for our support and our votes. Please stand with us and stand for this town. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you to everyone for being very respectful during that time. We appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and move forward in our following our agenda with the approval of the council meeting minutes as well as closed meeting minutes. So we are looking at, I'll make a motion for approval for the October 20, let me just read the minutes first. October 2022 Town Council meeting minutes, October 2022 public hearing meeting minutes in related to the ordinance of 2022-26 to convey town-owned real property for the purpose of designing and constructing a roundabout, as well as the 2022 closed meeting minutes, which is 3-305B3, to consider the acquisition of real property for the public purpose and matters directly related thereto, South Main Street. I will make a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second those.
Councilmember Demoter seconds. Was there any significant changes to those meeting minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Meetings passed, minutes passed, and we'll move to Chief Reeds for the monthly report. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chief Reeves with the monthly police report for the police department in Mount Airy. Starting out, go with training and meetings that we've attended during the month. During the month of October, we've attended some trainings. We attended street crimes training and investigation. Corporal Ginevra and SPO Soroy attended that up in Harrisburg. Myself and SPO Bridges attended basic instructors training at the Maryland Police Training Commission. Myself attended the Carroll County Chiefs of Police meeting, which was held at the Carroll County Sheriff's Office Training Academy. We did have a discussion on the Police Accountability Board and as well as the administrative charging committees that was imposed by House Bill 670 this past legislative year, and the issues that's confronting every department in the county and the state as well. Also discussed a grant that's obtained for servers for LPRs and to help equip the local PDs with mobile units. We currently have 3 mobile units that we deploy in town on our patrol units. The oldest is on loan from the Maryland State Police, and we are requesting, as part of that grant, 1 replacement unit to replace that mobile unit that the state police has on loan to us. As far as community outreach, we were present and participated in some of the events in town. We had National Faith and Blue Weekend, which was hosted by St. Andrew's Church. Corporal Ginevra and the Mount Airy Police Department Chaplain Harry Johnson were present at the church and engaged in conversation with all the visitors. Faith and Blue is based on the premise that strong communities are built through mutual respect and understanding. Law enforcement and faith institutions are key pillars in each community, and when they work together, neighborhoods thrive. We also attended a fall festival at the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company Carnival Grounds. Corporal Ginevra was present for that, and we also were involved with the trunk or treat in town. Corporal Ginevra and SPO Bridges spooked out one of their patrol cars and handed out candy for the kids there. We had a drug take-back event at the Mount Airy Police Department, which was also assisted by the Recycling and Sanitation Commission. Filled 2 full bags of over-the-counter drugs and so forth were collected for destruction. Halloween patrol, we had 3 units working that evening, and there was nothing to report as a result of that evening. As usual, again, we do have the medication disposal system in place at the police station. That's available to the public to come in and drop in their unused and unwanted medications. And that's open usually Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. As far as calls for service for the month, we had 513 calls for service during the month. This was an 8% decrease from September, an 31% decrease from October 2021, a year ago, where we had 769. Traffic enforcement, we conducted over 92 traffic stops this month. That was up 44% from September. We issued 55 citations. That was up 49% from September. We issued 64 warnings, and that was up. Issued 7 equipment repair orders. That was slightly lower, and we did have 1 DUI arrest during the month. We made 14 criminal apprehensions. There was a couple incidents in town that we're working on that we had 3 separate incidents of multiple vehicles that were gone through and items were stolen from them in various neighborhoods of town. We are investigating that. We do have suspect information that we're working on right now with allied agencies, working a joint investigation with them. There was a flim-flam style theft. We were dispatched to a theft complaint which involved a $20,000 Rolex watch. During that incident, a subject was selling the items on social media. He met with a suspect and arranged for the transaction in the area of South Main Street and Ridgeville Boulevard at a local business. During the meeting, the victim client and the suspect interacted, and the items were exchanged for an envelope that was supposed to reportedly contain $20,000 in cash. It was found not to. Discovered that there was it was money in an envelope, but was not the amount that was the bargain price. There was an undisclosed amount of money that was significantly less than that amount. So just kind of warning residents and so forth that, when involved in something like that, to be very careful and use a lot of extreme caution when they're dealing with something like that. During the month, we had 34 Group A offenses that encompassed 1 assault, 4 fraud cases, 15 larceny theft, and 1 street robbery, which we also have under investigation for the month prior. And we do have suspect information in that as well. It was juvenile related, so we really can't discuss too much about that. 36% decrease in Group A offenses as compared with this past September. During the month, we had 5 Group B offenses, and that involved 1 disorderly conduct, 3 family offenses, non-violent, and 1 DUI apprehension. And this was a 44% decrease from September. There was no opioid-related overdoses reported in October. So, and that will be the town's police report. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open it up to the council.
No questions, and thank you for all you do and all your support, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Have a
Good
great
I
evening.
have a question,
Oh.
actually. I know, remember me down here at the end? Quick question, educate me really quick. Firearms qualification. All our officers have to do that, correct?
Correct. We have a course of day fire and night fire as well as
And then-
classroom.
Right, so is that annual, monthly?
It's annual qualifications, yes.
And then you have to practice. They have to go to a range and they have to have range time, correct?
It's, a lot of that's done on their own time, yes, but it's good for them to do that, to remain proficient in their skills.
Okay, so what I want to know is the potential to have an indoor range here. Would that help the police station because you'd have it right here?
I can say currently that we do go outside of the area, outside of the town, to various locations to do that. A lot of the officers are members of like fish and game clubs where they will go and practice the range. It would be, I think it would be a positive thing for us to have a local place to be able to do that. I mean.
Because they could do it right here in town.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We were emailed the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company report as our normal presenter, Bruce Walsh, is getting ready for Election Day tomorrow. So he sent the council and the mayor his report. So we'll move into the Civil Air Patrol report with Captain Rolfe. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I've been asked to make it somewhat brief tonight because I actually have 2 items to cover. For the report for October 2022, our significant activities are mostly cadet related this month with a warrior challenge, a test of fitness and teamwork, the cadet rocketry curriculum, and the Cyber Patriot competition where our cadets actually ranked 5th in the state of Maryland for their efforts. Community support, our squadron's color guard led the Glenelg High School homecoming parade, and we actually had members support our host organization, the Isaac Walton League, for one of their work days, helping to reduce the time they needed to complete their tasks. I'd like to call out our own Second Lieutenant Christian Action, who was selected as the Wings Property Management Officer of the Year for the state. And we had one squadron member that has been approved to evaluate and certify ground team members so we can actually help bring more search and rescue capabilities to the community. Under significant training, the squadron conducted additional training as a proof of concept exercises, combining our small unmanned air systems or our drones with our ground team members and practicing some of our ground-to-air communications. So we're continuing to enhance our capabilities in that area. We had 4 cadets participate in orientation flights, 2 of which for the first time. We continue to grow with a new cadet and senior member this month, and we remain fully mission ready and capable should we be called upon. On the horizon, we have a wing conference coming up this month in Ocean City, so quite a few of us will be out there, and we have additional emergency services and cyber training going on this month. Pending your questions on my report.
Just before you get to your second thing, I just wanted to ask, every month, it seems like you're adding some, what's your total enrollment now?
We're at 41 right now, total
Awesome.
members.
And
Love to have more, so I heard a comment about teenagers need something to do.
yeah. And since coming into and serving as your new role at Mount Airy, have you felt like that has helped boost your enrollment, or do you not think that's had any effect?
Just me being here, or just being?
You know, like, well, I mean, sometimes just taking on a new role, being in Mount Airy, you're.
Certainly, I think we've gotten a lot more public outreach to us directly, both in terms of what we do for the community, which helps our enrollment because people see us more.
Yeah.
And then I've probably gotten a lot more cold calls, I'd say, with people interested because they see us around or they see our materials out there.
Awesome.
So I think it's definitely positive.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. My second item for tonight is actually like to make a recommendation on behalf of our squadron for the town for a repurposing and utilization of the Flatiron Building. We are currently, as the mayor briefed last month, reviewing the town's emergency action plan to support any kind of updates to that. And one thing that's called out there is a requirement for the town to have an emergency operations center, which in the plan is currently this room, this building, or the Mount Airy Maintenance Facility as an alternate. Our recommendation is that the Flatiron Building be considered for actually establishment as the town's dedicated emergency operations center. This can provide a space that doesn't require additional setup during a time of emergency, as a dual-purpose area like this would require. It also affords additional meeting areas for emergency planning or other volunteer organizations within the community to gather and support any kind of emergency operations, activities, and support services the town may need. A potential usage of it could be for the top floor to be the actual center proper, while the second or middle floor actually be used for additional meeting spaces and staging of equipment as it may be needed. This doesn't require any significant alteration to the renovation plans that I know have been proposed, especially regarding the walkthrough of the bottom floor, and actually may be beneficial as that could allow for additional logistics and resource distribution capabilities. My report is on file with you via email. I'm not going to read it all to you, but I'll stand by for any questions on this recommendation.
Council members or mayor, any questions, comments?
I just want to say thank you for looking outside of the box and coming up with it, looking at the emergency response plan and reviewing that once again and thinking of ways to better utilize that in the future. So thank you.
I have one question. I noticed, and I just want to point this out so the public hears this. I know it's here and it's going to be probably on the town website, but I have to applaud you because you talk about funding, and Mount Airy will have access to funding through FEMA grants and other programs. So that's good to know if we establish an emergency operations center, which is kind of key.
I'm not a grant professional, so I can't tell you, what's actually available,
Right.
but I know FEMA has
But it makes sense if we have a
tons of money.
designated EOC, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain. All right. We're going to go ahead and move into new business. And first up is the transfer of ownership for Twin Ridge Professional Park Storm Pond Number 4 to the town. And Tom, I see you listed on this, and I also see an email, maybe, around maybe 4:30-ish or so.
Yeah, so.
3:30, I apologize.
We've had a lot of back and forth on this for, truth be told, probably several years, but more recently, I would say, more frequently over the last 6 months or so. Essentially, the Planning Commission back in the 1990s approved the development plans with a notation on them that the town would maintain stormwater management pond number 4. At some point in time in this process, probably later than earlier, town staff indicated its preference to have the pond conveyed to the town in fee simple as opposed to simply taking an easement in order to better maintain the pond. Disputes did arise, however, as to who was responsible for making certain repairs to the pond, which the town contended had fallen into disrepair in the interim between when the development plans were originally approved many, many years ago and present. There have been several back and forth negotiations. I've reported on those, and we've discussed them at various times. The other side did make some initial repairs. At some point, the town came back and said that they wanted more repairs. Meetings ensued, discussions, et cetera. After a more recent meeting, somewhere around 2 months ago, we thought we had come to an agreement as to the repairs that the developer would be agreeable to make. What followed up after that was an on-site inspection wherein the town engineer was present and representatives of the developer was likewise present to, in the field, discuss and hopefully come to an agreement on certain of those repairs. Essentially, at about 3 o'clock today, fully and finally, it appears, the parties did come to an agreement as to the scope of those repairs. and also final language of what I'm calling a letter agreement or resolution, a settlement agreement, if you will. The essential terms are as follows. I should back up and say that Barney has reviewed this agreement and Exhibit A, and as finally drafted at about 3:30 today, I think we believe that it expresses the agreement among the parties. Essentially, the other side will perform work enumerated in Exhibit A to the agreement. I believe that's to begin tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Barney will be present during the course of the work, and if there are areas that, under the agreement, still need to be addressed by the time the contractor is done, while the contractor is present on site, we'll hopefully work that out and get anything that still needs to be taken care of completed. After that, the developer will present and convey the pond to the town. We'll also be undertaking for approval an amended plat that basically revises our access to the pond that better allows access by the town to maintain the pond. If further development of the lots is determined by Carroll County, requires upgrades to the pond due to that development, other than with respect to the, I think, 2 lots that are currently under development review, then it will be, in that event, the developer's responsibility at the developer's cost to undertake those upgrades to, as required by the county. Essentially, tonight, given the timing of all of this, we would ask for the council to approve the resolution agreement as well as Exhibit A. We have not yet received Exhibit B. It's basically the written contract between the developer and its contractor. So we would ask that the approval be subject to our ability to review that and make sure that it is consistent with the terms as set forth in the agreement in Exhibit A. But aside from that sort of condition, we would be asking for approval by the town council of the proposed agreement to include Exhibit A, which is the list of scope of repairs.
All right. And Barney, he said you had reviewed the contract and the language and the repairs. We've done some major upgrades to some stormwater management ponds from MDE, and the state is telling we have to make these upgrades, so it's a cost to the town. When they are doing these upgrades, will it be aligned with essentially, will those upgrades be comparable to the upgrades that we've done in other stormwater management ponds? Is that a fair question to ask, or not really?
So they're not doing upgrades to this pond for the mitigation.
Okay.
The developer's doing some extra things that we had talked about after the county already approved it earlier this summer. So they've approved what's been done to date. The town wants to take it a little further, so it's easier to mow, things like that.
Okay.
So things that we would expect to be done when a pond's turned over to us. So that's all we're getting at. And, you know, we wouldn't foresee any major changes that the county would say that we would have to do this pond in the near future, because they've just accepted that pond themselves.
Okay.
As being maintained properly.
Okay. That was my one major question, other than not having paperwork in front of me.
Oh. I'll let.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, your question is very valid, Jason. I think what another way of phrasing it, and I'm looking out there because I know Dick Swanson is out there somewhere. We're not expecting the county or the MDE or anybody to come in within, say, a 5-year period and say, now you guys got to do more to this pond. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, that's a true statement.
Okay.
Again, it would be the county if, you know, if there was anything in disrepair.
Okay.
As far as meeting our mitigation, the state doesn't dictate where we do those updates. You know, it's something that we work together as to find where is the best place to do those updates.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Barney, let me see if I, too many papers here in front of me tonight, can't get the microphone close, but got a question here for you regarding the stormwater management pond. The current state of it, whenever I drive by, is always like, it's like a pond. It holds water too much for too long of a period. That's what I'm concerned with, basically, is that the state or the county is going to come in after the fact. I'm glad that say you need to upgrade it to the design where it infiltrates into the ground quicker, because I believe that's what the stormwater management ponds are designed to do now. Instead of holding water, it's supposed to infiltrate quicker into the ground, because all the stormwater management ponds around town I see now are kind of dry within a reasonable amount of time there. So I'm concerned with, I'm happy to see that if, I want to say, any excess or more work needs to be done to that pond in relation to the 2 lots that are under site plan review, that the developer will undertake that cost. I'm concerned that what would happen if, I want to say, additional costs, like if MDE or the state, or say if there are, I want to say, extra things that need to be done to accommodate those new lots, that we don't get stuck with the excess bill to bring that into that stormwater management pond into compliance with modern regs. Because I think once you touch it, you got to bring it up to modern standards. Would that be a concern, or am I kind of like, did you follow that train of thought?
And again, I don't find that a concern. Not all ponds are being drained, if you will.
Yeah.
We've done that with a couple ponds now, where they were normally wet, and basically added a pipe that drains it off at a slow rate.
Yeah.
So that they will stay wet for, you know, a couple days maybe, and then, you know, be dry at
Okay.
other times. But a difference is the Twin Ridge Deer Hollow Pond that we just renovated as part of our mitigation. It has 3 deeper areas that holds water, and then the majority of the pond area holds about 2 feet of water.
Okay.
And it stays wet all the time.
Okay.
And that's how it's designed. So there are different ways that they're designed. Some of them do stay wet, even the newer ponds.
Okay. I mean, I guess I want to say, is that, I guess back in the 90s, there was different design criteria. Was that, I guess that pond, was that design, is it working as functioning, I guess, as it designed? Is it functioning as it was designed to hold water and stuff of that nature, like it's supposed to be doing?
It is a wet pond, yes.
Okay, that's
It's
what,
meant to be a
okay.
wet pond.
Okay, so the state or the county shouldn't
Again,
ding us on it.
They accepted it as, you know, being, you know.
Acceptable to them.
You know, as of the summer. So
Okay.
I don't foresee anything changing.
All right, cool, thank you.
Councilwoman Reed or Galletti? Okay. Councilmember Demoter? I will make a motion for approval with the recommendation from Tom that they allow site plan B or Exhibit B to be reviewed before the proposal. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Councilmember Munder seconds. All those in favor of approving the transfer of ownership for Twin Ridge Professional Park Storm Pond number 4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. And before we get to our discussion with Beck, as noted earlier, I would like to schedule the January Town Council meeting. Currently, right now, as it stands, it's on January 2nd, which is a holiday, and we need to push that to January 9th. So council members, please just make a note that in January, that meeting will be on January 9th and not on the 2nd. All right. Next up is our discussion of the Beck property, and this is going to be on the approval process. In speaking with John Breeding, our town planner, as to what the expectations are, since this is not necessarily a vote, but maybe a recommendation from this body to see where we are going next. We can let John know how to proceed so that we can figure out the appropriate process. I can start, or if someone else would like to start, by all means.
I'll jump in if.
Go ahead,
you want to
Councilmember
start.
Demoter.
Okay, so a couple thoughts. Just starting off as a frame of reference. This is Mount Airy, and I think we, up to recently, and hopefully recently, we carry ourselves in a certain manner as the citizens of Mount Airy. So to start off, I think whatever process we engage, we need to treat each other with dignity and respect, be respectful of each other's viewpoints, considerations, property rights. I mean, we're all entitled to own property, sell property. Developers have a role in developing. Citizens have a view in terms of what they want for the community. So let's just start off by saying, let's just be respectful of each other in a process. My thoughts on the process would be, because we are transferring the project to a new developer, I think it would be appropriate to go to the charrette phase. I think it would be a great opportunity for the developer to introduce themselves as an organization and what your priorities are and your vision is for this piece of property in the town of Mount Airy. It gives our citizens an opportunity to learn about you and how you carry yourself and what your vision is and how you plan on engaging with the citizens and the town. So I would recommend going back to the charrette phase. I think it's of benefit to the citizens as well as to the property owner and the developer. Now, in that process, I want to read a little section here. This is our regulation, and this is about the pre-concept sketch layout plan. And it says, as part of the initial phase of the development approval process, the applicant shall provide the commission with a pre-concept sketch layout plan, which shall contain, and then it goes on and enumerates what it should contain. And the last section says, preliminary location of stormwater management facilities and open space, and the approximate water and sewer allocations from the town that the development will require, if any. So my question is, and I don't believe this is the case, so please correct me if I'm just misinformed. I have received in my council mailbox a copy of the newest Beck property plan. On that plan, I saw no information about, quote, the approximate water and sewer allocations from the town that the development will require, if any. So my question is, has the town formally received that? I have not seen anything in writing or on a plan that speaks to that requirement. And if we have not received that, I am requesting the town to get that documentation so that we as council members and the public can comment on that along with all the other elements of the pre-concept plan. So I'm expecting to see something in writing that says, here are the approximate water and sewer allocations from the town that the development will require, if any. And if they specify in writing they do not require any, the logical next piece of information I'd want to see, as I think the citizens would be, how did you arrive at that determination? What study did you do? What data do you have that says you don't need an allocation from the town? So let me stop there on my main point. Let me broaden up another point for everyone's consideration. So Our regs say that adequate public facilities analysis and review does not occur until the concept phase for most development types. But it does not speak to whether or not adequate public facilities could or couldn't be evaluated at a pre-concept plan phase. It's silent on that. My point is, if the town chose to do so, the town could conduct an adequate public facility review on other components beside this water criteria. You could look at traffic issues, police and EMS issues, et cetera. So I am going to ask the mayor and the town to consider performing what I would call a screening review. I'm not saying it has to be in the weeds, super detailed, but enough of a cursory review that gives council members and citizens a little bit of a sense of, okay, there's going to be close to 600 homes. How many more police officers will we need? How many more patrol cars? How many children is that? What's the impact to schools? What's the impact to roads? And I'm going to call that a screening review. And I think there's a way that could be done that gives us a little more information to be informed and ask intelligent questions. Because at the end of the day, this is a fairly large, it is a large development to Mount Airy. This is mixed use, which is a new animal for us. And really what we're getting at here are quality of life issues, okay? The 2020 community survey said, what do people like best about living in Mount Airy? Sense of safety, great place to raise a family, quiet neighborhoods, location. And so those are quality of life attributes that we all cherish. So we just want to make sure as this development moves forward in the planning process, we have a good sense of how it might impact the quality of life for our citizens. And then wrapping up, my understanding is my approval or disapproval of this development at the pre-concept plan phase is my only opportunity as an elected council member to weigh in on that development. Once it gets past pre-concept, this goes to the Planning Commission, and I don't believe I really have a say on what happens to that development. This is my shot at, as an elected official, to weigh in on how I feel about this development as a representative of you, the citizens. So because of that, I think all the things that I've asked for might be beneficial for all of us. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Munder.
Yes, thank you, Council President Poyer. Yeah, I will go along with what my fellow councilman just stated, but also that I believe we do need to reset or restart all the way from the beginning again with public meetings and charrettes, basically due to the same logic and facts, new development team, and everything that Councilman Demoda just said. But I would like to take it a little bit farther than that and give out some suggestions on how maybe the charrettes or how the pre-concept we should be looking at it. I believe there should be the pre-concept approval. This new one should be a three-phase approach for the final approval of the pre-concept plan. We should be looking at each side separately, east-west, and then the project as a whole. And the project would not move forward until they have approval of the pre-concept plan for the whole project. This way it gives us, because both sides of the road have a different surrounding neighborhoods, basically. The west side's a little bit more historic, older, smaller lots and things of that nature. The east side's a little bit more modern, not modern, but newer development, townhomes are recent, the single-family homes. So we should try anything that is put there should be able to be blended into the existing development around there. Also, as we work through this. I believe the town council should develop, implement guidelines for approval of the project that allow for a more consistent approval process, because when we did the Green Tree, we were kind of all looking at each other. What do we judge? What do we look at? What things do we do that? So we should try and develop some rough guidelines to judge the development by, to say, okay, it meets this, meets that. And I will go along with Councilman Demuda that we do need some form of confirmed water availability data. And it needs to be provided by the developer at their cost to the town prior to any final approval of a pre-concept plan. Since all the wells are on site of the development, water availability and long-term water quality are linked to the type and density of the development there. So therefore, I would like to see some type of rough data. We were promised it by the Becks, not the Becks, by the Kaz brothers back to have it in, I believe, September of this year or something. We are still waiting for that. So before we even consider final approval of a pre-concept plan, I would like to see even some rough water availability data for the property. Because as I said earlier, I've seen the well site locations on it. I have some concerns with it. The numbers for the wells are from the June plan, the June presentation, the anticipated yields and everything. So I just want to make sure that there is enough water that will be provided. APFO, in my view, is, at least for the water and everything else, is a pressure relief valve to slow it down if something goes too fast or outstrips what's available. I'm trying to think anything else. No, I believe that is it for now. Some of the things that Councilman Demuda mentioned in his screening review, the Planning Commission stuff talked about at the recent workshop for the transportation segment of the I want to say the comp plan review about, I want to say, the screening for the road capability, doing an overall road and traffic study for town, see what areas need to be improved and things of that nature. So that can be done. The Planning Commission and the comp plan will be looking at that also. But right now, the water is the main thing. I want to make sure that we have enough water. I believe that is a council responsibility. In the code, I read that the council has the ability to make sure we have adequate water supply for the town. So that's one thing I want to see. It can be done in conjunction, but I would like to see that before we give any final development approval for the pre-concept plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. My opinion is that even if there wasn't, in my opinion, significant changes to the Beck property, which we have from this new developer, I think simply because we have a new developer, I think this will give that developer an opportunity to hear the residents, hear what their wants and what their needs are, as well as improvements and suggestions to that property. With that being said, in looking at the new property layout, I think there is significant changes. I think there's been enough changes to that property where residents would have significant concerns in addition to the concerns that they brought for the first developer. I think I don't want to say that the process was rushed. It followed the process. However, I think people are made more aware of what is going on with the Beck property. I think this will allow more residents' opinions to be added to the charrettes from the developer's perspective. So I think we should go back. I think this process should start over. And it would be my recommendation that we begin with the charrettes and send it back to planning and start there. Councilwoman Reed.
So I do agree as well with going back to the charrette phase. It is a brand new developer. It's a brand new plan, so we have to start the process over. I think the charrettes provide an opportunity for us to understand the developer's intentions, as well as it's an opportunity also for them to realize our vision. It's an opportunity to have a conversation both with the citizens and elected officials. So the charrettes are a good idea. My only concern is with Council Member Demoter and Munder's request for water data up front, and it's a question for you, Tom. If we require the developer to supply this, but it's outside of the town code or the process, are we setting ourselves up for any legal issues? I know you can't answer that right now, but it's something to think about.
I would prefer to give legal advice to my client in private.
Right. So that is a concern that we would have to understand fully. And that's all I have.
Councilwoman Galetti?
I'll make it brief. Everyone has really good points, and I agree, although there are some significant changes. There are some that are not significant, but I think it's a good opportunity for the developer to talk to the public, for the public to be able to ask their questions, and for us to be able to ask our questions and start from the beginning with the charrette where the public can interact with them.
Thank you. So, John, this is not a vote, but just a recommendation from the council, just based on what we've heard. It would be at the council's wishes that we start this process over. So we'll let planning start scheduling charrettes and everything else.
Yeah, I'll look at dates and let everybody know when that's going to be occurring.
And as always, I know you do a great job, but also coordination as far as timing and making sure that the public is aware. And this would be an opportunity for the public just to keep an ear out as far as those dates and times. And I'm sure we'll have new locations such as the fire hall and those types of things. So just make sure that you have your places, your dates, your times coordinated. And so right now it's the council's recommendation that we start back over the process.
Thank you.
Okay? All right, thank you.
May I be heard?
This was just a discussion at this time. If there was any public comment, I wish you would have done it at this time. At this point, it's not going to change anything
The specifics of what you discussed were not on the agenda.
as far as the approval process?
Yeah, go back to the charrette stage or anything like that.
Sure.
So we didn't know what to say before you started the discussion.
So the way that the agenda is worded as best as possible, everyone here in town staff has the agenda. We work through the wording as best as possible. The transparency is there. It's been out for a week, and I apologize about that. We're going to start the process over back at the charrettes. Thank you.
Could I make a quick comment on something you just said, Council President? There was a lot of people on social media complaining about lack of transparency, like we were trying to get away with something by not getting that agenda out. And I want to point out that there were staff members sick in Town Hall. Someone was sick and had to leave in the middle of the day. So that's what happened. It wasn't anybody trying to pull one over on anybody. So I would like the public to be respectful of the fact that things like that happen. And it wasn't anybody trying to do it on purpose. In my time on council, it has not happened once. So I think they've done a good job getting the agenda out. Right, Mayor?
Yeah, I'll follow it up. Yeah, we had 3 people who were out last week due to different illnesses, so it was tough to get the agenda out last week, and we even tasked some people to go out there and make copies and all that. So we do apologize for getting the agenda out a little bit later than normal. Thanks.
All right. Mayor, we're going to move on to you, commission appointments and reappointments, sir.
Yeah, I've only got one appointment this month, but next month, just so the citizens are aware of it, next month is when our election board will be put up for appointment once again for the May election. This month, though, all we are putting up is Matt Elam for the Economic Development Commission, and we're short by a couple other people in the Economic Development Commission. So if anybody is interested in that, go ahead and fill out an application. But Matt Elam and you guys have his form for economic development.
Okay. With the application form that we have been given and received, I will, sorry, let's just vote. My apologies. All those in favor of Matthew Elam going to EDC signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Matthew. And this is the part of the agenda that I just wanted to adjust to be respectful to our Frederick County representative. So we're going to start with Resolution 2022-9. This is the Frederick County Hazard Mitigation and Climate Adaptation Plan. And this is also up for adoption. We have a Frederick County representative tonight, Rohan Brown. Did I say that correct, sir? All right. And so, council members, if you have any questions, please don't ask me.
Oh, come on, Council President, I was expecting you to have.
I mean, I know a lot,
Climate,
but- yeah,
not the
right.
climate committee, the sustainability, no.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, so in front of you, you have a proposed text amendment. I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Brown, but if you want to just give a very brief and short, we've been here for a while already.
That's fine. Okay, so the Frederick County Hazard Mitigation and Climate Adaptation Plan, also known as MCAP. The purpose of the plan is to prevent future damage by assessing the community's vulnerabilities to natural hazards and preparing a long-term strategy that takes into account climate change to adequately address those hazards. The plan relies on active participants from county and municipal officials, residents, stakeholders. The process for approval requires FEMA and MDM approval, followed by adoption by each jurisdiction covered by the plan. On April 24th, FEMA approved the plan, presented pending adoption from each jurisdiction. The Federal Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, commonly known as the 2000 Stafford Act. Amendments. This act requires state and local government to develop hazard mitigation plans as a condition for federal grant assistance. We're enforcing the importance of pre-disaster infrastructure mitigation planning to reduce disaster losses nationwide. To not lapse, the plan must be updated every 5 years. The current plan lapsed on April 17, 2022, and the adoption of this plan would make the county and the town of Mount Airy eligible for federal mitigation funding. The county council adopted the plan on May 17, 2022. Currently, an updated approval and fully adopted plan is required for the following FEMA grant programs. Building Resilience, Infrastructure, and Communities, that's also known as the BRIC program, is an annual grant program targeted at infrastructure and building projects that make a community more resilient. Community capacity and capability building grants are also available for planning studies. Proposed funding for this next cycle is $1 billion. So maybe EOC might be an idea for you. Our Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is a post-disaster program that provides mitigation planning and project grants equal to 15% of the total disaster damages in the presidential declared disaster area. Hazard Mitigation Grant Program post-fire provides mitigation grants to help communities implement hazard mitigation measures after wildfire disaster that have resulted in fire management assistance grant declaration. And there's also the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program. That's an annual grant program specifically targeted at projects that prevent damage to NFIP-insured properties.
Mr. Brown, we've had this, it sounds like we've had this in the past. Maybe we're now lapsing, and so we need to update. Is that correct?
It's been updated, it's been approved, but that's pending all the jurisdictions adopting it. So,
Okay. Awesome.
So FEMA's already approved it.
Okay, I'll open it up to council members.
Thank you for being here. I have two quick questions. So this says natural hazards. Does this cover pandemics? Or is it earthquakes, floods, et cetera?
Right now it's earthquake and floods, but
So it's not intended to cover a pandemic?
I'd have to get back with you on that one, but there was money for the pandemic, so.
I'm just asking because a pandemic could be from natural causes or it could be like a man-made. It's just a question of clarification. Sounds
Okay.
like it's not. I know it's a nit-nat, but
Yeah.
I'm a nit-nat person.
That's fine.
If the first whereas, the second line says, and partly in Carroll County, Maryland, is most vulnerable to natural hazards which may result in. I don't know that we know that we are most vulnerable to natural hazards. I think we may be vulnerable to natural hazards. I just think
Okay.
it's a little bit of an overstatement. I would change the wording if we had an opportunity, since it's our resolution, correct? We can, okay. I would change the wording to say, Carroll County, Maryland, comma, may be vulnerable to natural hazards. And then last question, does this require any budget from the town? Do we need to be earmarking dollars for this in terms of planning purposes?
Not to cut the nice gentleman from Frederick County off, because he might not know, to be honest.
That'd be referred to, that goes to a grants person.
Yeah, I mean, I looked, when I saw this, Councilman, I started looking on Frederick County because I thought it was something that climate action plan. And then times, I think it was the total of 1,400 pages for this plan or something. So I scanned through it the best I could. And you had the same question. To my best of my knowledge, or I could find maybe John or somebody, it doesn't require us to put any money into it, to my knowledge. I believe it was mentioned that existing staff time should be able to handle whatever we are required to do on it. It was very minimal. I think we were hit with two items, I think, in the plan to take care of.
I'm good. Thank you for the answers. And thank you, sir, for your.
Right, so in the plan, you guys have 2 items. Support data collection, studies, plans, and mapping efforts to improve the county's ability to respond to and prepare for future hazards. And install, replace emergency backup generators at all critical facilities.
Yeah, and I believe it was mentioned in the plan by our town administrator, something that we're already in the process of updating the generators at the wastewater treatment plants and where they're needed. So it's already being done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Reed Galletti.
Just for verification, you said that our plan has already been approved?
Yes. So on April 24th, FEMA approved the plan, presented pending adoption from the jurisdictions.
Okay.
So.
But I guess my question comes from, it says local governments to develop and submit the approval to the president, a mitigation plan that outlines processes for identifying their respective natural hazards, risks, and vulnerabilities. We've already done that, right? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, all that's done already.
Okay. Anything else?
Just quick question, because I wanted to touch base on something that Councilmember Demoter said. I'm wondering, because I'm looking at FEMA's disaster, the DMA of 2000, on their website. My question is, where the wording, before we go changing the wording, I'm concerned that it might be something required in the FEMA regulations and guidelines. So when you have a good point saying is most vulnerable to natural hazards, we don't want people to think we're most vulnerable to natural hazards. Obviously, no one wants to think that in their town. But my concern is if we go changing this wording, could that possibly be a guideline? And I don't have time to sit here and read all this right now, but in the FEMA guidelines. So that's my only concern. If this is what we had in the past, is that the reason that wording's there? That's all, before we go taking stuff out.
This was developed from a template provided for local municipalities to approve. So that's the language from from FEMA, basically. I doubt that it would be much effect if you take the word most out. I would suspect you'd be okay. My understanding is that the purpose of this, and we have done these before for Carroll County, et cetera, is so that you can qualify for FEMA grants should they become necessary or desirable to the town. If you do not subscribe to a disaster mitigation plan, and typically local jurisdictions do that through the county, then you do not qualify for FEMA grants.
Just a question for Tom, Council President, or maybe John, a town administrator. So we're up to date on Carroll County's mitigation plan, right? Because since we're in both counties, I guess this is just for the Frederick County side of the town?
We're currently working with Carroll County to bring the same adoption proceeds or
Okay.
procedure to you as well.
All right.
So I'm in communications with Carroll County as well.
All right.
So
cool, thank
why,
you.
so that in the first paragraph, though, it says partly in Carroll County. So I'm assuming that Frederick County's plan is also going to include the other 60% of our town in Carroll County. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense, but maybe we just,
That's what I was assuming when I read this, that it includes both parts of the town under the Frederick County.
We have a separate resolution that we passed. It's due to be up again probably 7 years ago, roughly.
Right.
10, yeah, probably a decade ago for the Carroll side. So Carroll's working on theirs. They will submit it just like Frederick already has. They're just behind Frederick at this point in time. And we'll get it approved by FEMA, and then we'll have a separate resolution whereby the town does the same exact thing for the Carroll side.
So will Carroll side include the portion of Frederick in their language?
No, it will include the Carroll side.
So only
It's for
Carroll?
That's right.
So does this language need to be changed to only include Frederick?
Yeah, it says it.
And partly in Carroll County?
Might be talking,
This is for the part of this town that is in Frederick County, and for that part of the town, we are adopting the Frederick County emergency plan, which has already been approved by FEMA. We have in place already, currently, on the Carroll side, a resolution whereby 10 years ago, we approved the Carroll plan, which is still in effect, though undergoing modification and updating, and once that's ready and approved by FEMA, we will come back with a resolution for the Carroll side.
Okay.
yeah,
I think I understand what is happening now. So
yeah, if you look under, farther down on page 1, under the now, number 1, it says, as the official hazard mitigation plan of the town of Mount Airy with respect to so much of the town that is located in the county. So I'm taking that as Frederick County. I take the first whereas now as just saying we're split between 2 counties, so don't take, so this doesn't apply to the town as a whole.
Okay.
Just our location.
All right. So I will make a motion for approval. No offense, Councilman Demoter, but since this came from FEMA, I'd just rather keep it all the same.
I agree.
And not to say that we're in any more harm than anyone else. I will make a motion for approval just to keep the language as same. Yes. All right. So is there a second on that?
Second.
All right. Councilwoman Galetti seconds. All those in favor of Resolution 2022-9 signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your time.
Thank you.
All right. We will scoot back up to letter A, which is ordinance 2022-12. This is to amend the code to align with Carroll County's forest stand delineation plan, or also known as FSD. This is for introduction with amendments and to schedule a public hearing. I will introduce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. I don't necessarily know what those amendments are. Do I have to read all of those?
No.
Do you want to go over it,
There's a
Tom?
redline version here to shortline that. Basically, these are were suggested by the county. Among them, our current code has an old reference to the prior code. It has been recodified. So what all of this does is take every part of our code that cites the old Carroll County Code and updates it to the current citation.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
housekeeping, right, Tom? That would clarify.
Largely, yes,
Yeah.
although the one substantive change remains from when it was originally introduced, that because the county reviews the FSD, it used to be, I take it, that the county reviewed that prior to concept plan. The county now reviews that at concept plan, and so the county requested that the town amend its ordinance to map what and when the county does that.
Okay. I will realign my motion to reintroduce with the amendments noted on the red line version. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Councilmember Munder seconds. We're going to schedule a public hearing. This will be for January 9th, and 6:30? 6:30 PM for this one. Okay. Next up is ordinance 2022-21. This is proposed changes to the CC Community Commercial District. This is also up for reintroduction and to schedule a public hearing. I will reintroduce. Is there a second on this?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Galetti seconds. We will schedule this one also for January, and this will be at 6:45. Thank you very much. Next is ordinance 2022-22. This is proposed changes to the NP Neighborhood Professional District. This is for introduction as well as scheduling a public hearing. I will reintroduce. Is there a second on this?
Second.
Councilmember Munder seconds. This is going to be for January at 7 o'clock. And you thought you got a break. We are now on letter D. This is ordinance 2022-25. This is changes to the ordinance provisions related to MXD. This is for introduction as well as to schedule a public hearing. I will introduce. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Munder seconds. Public hearing on this, December 5th. How many I got on this one? 3? Let's do 6:20. Next is letter E, ordinance 2022-26. This is to convey town-owned real property in exchange for transfer of real property for the purpose of designing and constructing a roundabout. This is for reintroduction with amendments as well as to schedule a public hearing. I will reintroduce with the amendments noted. Is there a second?
Second.
Who? Am I going to, who?
I'll second.
All right. Councilwoman Galetti
I'm
seconds. Got it.
It's my roundabout, back down. I'm not jumping on your park, stay off my roundabout.
Stay off my roads.
Councilwoman Reed, she was just a little bit faster than you, so.
Stay off my roads. January? December. 6:20, we'll do 6:40. Thank you. We're on letter F, ordinance 2022-29. This is a proposed text amendments to add residential component to industrial zone in certain circumstances. This is for introduction and to schedule a public hearing. Would someone like to introduce? Would someone like to introduce? Not seeing any introductions, we are canceling ordinance 2022-29. Moving on to letter G, ordinance 2022-30. This is a budget amendment to add $2 million for the Mount Airy Police Department for a new station. This is up for adoption. Would someone like to introduce?
I'll introduce it.
Is there a second?
I will second with a correction.
All right. We'll go to Councilwoman Galetti, and then anyone else that has anything else they would like to say. Councilwoman Galetti.
Yeah, I would like it to say, right now it says, and I think we asked last month for it to be corrected. It says to allocate funds for design and construction, and as I said last month, design and construct what? We don't have land, we don't have, so I'd like that to be switched to acquisition and design. I think 2 million is about, I spoke to the chief about the beginning of a start of possibly acquiring land and then designing a proper police station. So I thought we had asked last month for that to be corrected.
Are you
so.
talking in the third sentence down, or the first whereas?
Whereas, the first whereas, the
Okay.
council wishes to allocate funds for the design and construction of a Mount Airy Police Department station. Design and construct what? We don't have land anywhere, so I would like it to be acquisition and design, so we can
Okay.
And Council
start the
President,
acquisition process.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I would like to make a motion for an amendment as well, but I wanted to hear from Councilmember Reed about the goals and objectives of the ordinance.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Reed.
Yeah, so we started, Chief Doug, I believe, was hired in 2016, and the Mount Airy Police Department moved into rented space in 2017. And that space was only intended to be temporary. And since then, as far as I can tell, we as a town have not really moved any closer to building a permanent home for our police department. The rented space that they're in right now is a month-to-month lease, and we're spending $60,000 a year plus annually in that rent payment. Being in a permanent space holds some hazards, and I'm going to read a list, bear with me. If there is a public safety threat at the Mount Airy Police Department, it affects the local residents and businesses who share the building. The police officers often make they collect drugs when they stop cars. They have to carry them into the building basically through the front or side door. If they're bringing in disorderly persons, that disrupts the surrounding area. The potential for bomb threats, on any police department, and there's no secure way to bring prisoners into the building. The space is also currently at capacity. Officers are sharing space. The code enforcement office, locker room, and conference room are used as storage areas. File cabinets that should be in a secured area are in hallways. There's no secured parking lot for the officers or our vehicles, meaning the public has access to our vehicles at any time. And often, if the Mount Airy Police Department is seizing a vehicle, there's also no secured lot to store those vehicles. There's no generator on site to ensure continued operations during a crisis. No recorded interview room from victims or complaints. The evidence room, detention area, and suspect interview rooms are not up to standards. The armory is not large enough to facilitate the maintenance of the equipment. Additionally, I know that Chief Doug would like to see the ECC in the Mount Airy Police Department, not in the Flatiron Building. But where we come to is, how do we pay for this new home for the Mount Airy Police Department? We have three options. We have the general fund reserves, which currently our balance is at about $3 million, or it was when I met with town staff. $700,000 of that is already allocated. The town must maintain 3 months of operating expenses in the general fund reserves. That's about $1 million. So what does that mean? We don't have enough money currently in the general fund reserves for a large capital project. The second option is for the town to take a loan, but the town currently, according to town staff, cannot afford a loan payment to build a police department. It's that simple. We just don't have enough money. What's the other option? The elephant in the room. We have to look at our current tax rate. Mount Airy currently has one of the lowest tax rates in Frederick County and the lowest in Carroll County. The town can either increase the tax rate on the existing base, or we can raise the tax base through development. I don't know about you, but if we're going to spend money on a large capital project, I would rather invest in public safety. Raising taxes right now would be the only option for building a police department, as far as I can tell. And I know that everyone in this room that lives in Mount Airy doesn't want their tax rate to go up. there's no money for these capital projects. So how are we going to build a Mount Airy Police Department, the long advocated for community center, and potentially helping the preservation group restore the Flatiron Building? So I'm kind of at a loss here. Like, how do we get to the next level? We need to be prioritizing our projects so that we can get to the next level. We need to be talking about the Mount Airy Police Department every time we sit at this table. How are we going to pay for it? When are we going to acquire land? When are we going to design it? When are they going to have a permanent home to go to?
Does that answer your question?
That's a good frame of reference for some thoughts and my motion for an amendment. So should I offer that?
You may offer your amendment.
Okay. So, Council members Reed and Galletti, I thank you for introducing this ordinance because I think it's good. It kind of brings into focus, you talk about wants versus needs, right? And I think about, as a citizen, all the citizens out there need to sit down, just as I do, and you sit down at your kitchen table and you think about your priorities and what you can afford and what you can't afford, and you have to live within your means and the budget that you have. So this does bring into focus, this is a health and safety issue. Safety is the first responsibility that your government has to provide to its citizens. This is a need that's not going to go away. And so I believe it's important that we start budgeting for and allocating money for the police station so that when we're ready to build it, we have funds that have been set aside to allow us to do this. It may not be all the funds needed, but it'll probably get us pretty close. So I want to offer a verbal amendment, but it's a bit lengthy, so I made red line copies so you can read along with me. So let me pass these down to the council members, and I will read it. And let me first tell you what this essentially does. This essentially says we're going to set aside an amount of money right now out of the capital reserves for a police station. Then every year thereafter, we're going to allocate a minimum amount in each budget that will go towards the police station until we get the resources we need to complete the process. So let me read my amendment motion. So in the second paragraph, you'll see a red line. I've changed the amount from $2 million to say the amount of $750,000. $750,000 should be doable. That leaves plenty of money for reserves, plenty of money for emergency fund from now to the end of this year. So that to me is a reasonable figure that I have discussed with town staff. We'll get down to the next section of red line and I'll read. So it says, now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the authority aforesaid that the town of Mount Airy budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 be and hereby is amended to create a new line item entitled Site Acquisition, Design and Construction, so that covers all three, and adding to that line item funding in the amount of $750,000 for the site acquisition, design, and construction of a permanent Mount Airy Police Department station, with funding coming from the General Fund Capital Improvements Assessment, and then it continues on. The next red line section, and be it further enacted and ordained by the authority aforesaid that for each budget year beginning with the budget year 2023-2024, a minimum of $500,000 shall be allocated annually in each budget year thereafter to this new line item for these purposes until the budget amount for completion of the police station has been acquired. And be it further enacted and ordained by the authority aforesaid that the amounts accumulated in the aforesaid line item shall be reallocated each budget year until construction of the permanent police station shall have been completed and occupancy achieved. And be it further enacted and ordained by the authority aforesaid that nothing contained herein shall be construed to prohibit additional funding to the line item for the purposes described herein, in accordance with policy decisions made each budget year by the council to, in its discretion, allocate funding in accordance with prioritizing general health and safety-related needs over other funding priorities. So in a nutshell, it's saying we're going to make a commitment to build a police station because it's a need, not just a want, it's a need. We're going to allocate $750,000 right now. Each year thereafter, we're saying by this ordinance, we're going to put $500,000 into that line item. And every year, we're going to park $500,000 into that for site acquisition, design, construction, until we have achieved the goal. We can put more in each year if we want, but this is a commitment to fund this at $500,000 each year. To me, we're doing what a responsible government should do. We're doing what a responsible citizen would do. If you have children and you want to send them to college or a trade school, you're saving money along the way. You're not waiting to the end. If you want to buy a house, you don't just wait to the end. You start saving and setting aside money for the need. This isn't a want, this is a safety need. So to me, this takes the original ordinance, and I think it provides some realistic parameters and amounts in here, and it allows us as a council to make a commitment that this is a need, and we're going to budget for this, and it's going to be a priority, and we're going to make this happen. So that is my amendment to the original ordinance.
The only thing I'd say to that is the need is immediate, and just based on some quick calculations, what you laid out is a 9-year savings plan. In reality, that might be our reality because we don't have the money now. But I also feel that that's not acceptable because the need is now.
Well, the need is now, but it is a combination of need and reality. We don't have a design. We don't have a site. I know there are plans for a site within the Beck property development, but that's not a certainty. We don't know the timeline for that. And so this all isn't going to have to happen tomorrow anyway.
Right.
So this allows us to put savings aside so that when it's time to start making a site selection or doing design work, the money's there. Let's say we don't actually get to build something for 9 years from now. Will the price have gone up by then? Yes. But we are still closer to being compliant with being able to build it because we've been setting money aside than doing nothing at all and just sitting back and saying, well, where are we going to get the money from? So this is a savings plan and a commitment to the safety of our town, to our police force, and I think it's responsible governance.
Okay.
Real quick, I like the 750,000 now, one, because we have it, and it will jumpstart maybe some land acquisition and design. But I think beyond that, we really need to, I don't know, workshop it or figure out a way to make it happen sooner than 9 years. And you know, if somehow we figure out how to afford a loan payment or it comes down to the tax rate, those are tough discussions we're going to have.
And I think, Councilmember Reed, I think those are all good points. I think there's certainly changes could be made down the road to this ordinance, but it puts on paper the commitment to move in this direction. And unless this ordinance is modified or something new is proposed by a new council, this is our commitment to getting there.
Just so I don't, I keep track of everything, Councilwoman Galletti, you made an amendment about acquisition and design. Do you want to amend your motion with Councilmember Demoter, or do you want to stay with your original motion, or amendment, excuse me?
I definitely want to put in the acquisition and design, but I think the fact that we just got this with all this new wording, this is something I'm not comfortable voting on right now.
Okay.
Again, 24 hours is my minimum to give me something if you expect me to vote on it, if not a week. So I would say we should workshop this and hash out, because if you're going to add another 9 years, add that to the 6, you're talking 15 years. They're busting at the seam right now. And where they're at is not safe. I've been there. If you haven't been there, I think Councilmember Demoter, you've been there.
I've been there.
And we need more officers, so they're already bursting at the seams now. So I would say with this, all these changes in red lines, I'm not comfortable voting on that.
But
Okay.
what we're voting on is the original.
Right. So that's the motion on the table.
Well, the most, my.
Well, I need,
have to vote on the
we,
amendment.
you have the original amendment, so I need from you, before we do a first and a second from Councilmember Demoter, do you wish to amend your motion with the acquisition and design, or do you want to include it with Councilmember Demoter's?
Separate.
And then after we do this motion, then we can say, okay, we're going to table this.
Yeah, leave it the way I have it with the acquisition and design.
Okay. Councilmember Demoter, do you
Okay.
see room for the acquisition and design somewhere in your whereas statements?
It's already in here. If you look, the first main sentence of red line about the middle of the page.
She wanted to change design and construction.
It's got to be acquisition and design, because you can't design and construct.
In your
air.
first whereas statement, sir, it
First
says
whereas.
design and construction. She wants to change it to acquisition and design.
We need to start with acquisition of land somewhere.
Okay, why don't we change it to be consistent with below to say funds for the site acquisition, design, and construction, and that will cover your concern. And
But this item is talking about the budget. Like, you want a new line item created in the budget, which I don't have a problem with.
Yes.
But if you go back up to your first whereas statement,
Right.
Councilwoman Galetti wants to change design and construction so that it states acquisition and design of a Mount Airy Police Department station. Do you see that?
I see that.
Okay, so that's what her amendment, that's what she wants in her amendment. Are you willing to change that language?
I am. Again, the objective is to provide funding for all of these phases.
I understand.
But certainly, yes, I'm comfortable with, if you
All
want.
right.
Those changes.
So Councilmember Demoter, so Councilwoman Galetti reamends, sorry, I don't know if that's the right language or not. She's changing her motion to meet what Councilmember Demoter is saying in his red line version, in addition to the acquisition and design. Is that correct, Councilmember Demoter, as best as I can possibly state it?
I think so.
Okay.
I am totally supportive of
Okay.
the language change and the first whereas that
Okay.
Councilmember Galetti would like.
Is there a second on that amended motion from?
Are we on this one or this one? 'Cause we got-
We are on the, we are currently on the red line one with your language. He is introducing
I've
his
introduced.
amendments.
So I think the proper process is is a motion on the floor with a second, if I recall correctly. It is the ordinance 2022-30 as introduced with one change, which is in the first whereas clause. As I understand it, Councilwoman Galetti wishes to add the word acquisition, comma, before the word design and construction. And that is the motion that's on the table.
Correct.
There is the proposed amendment that Councilwoman Galetti as movant did not accept. So what's on the table is Councilwoman Galetti's motion, which is the original ordinance as introduced, but with the one acquisition in the first whereas clause.
Okay.
That's what's on the table right now.
Counsel.
Question of clarification. But in, So Councilmember Galletti, but you're keeping the $2 million figure in yours. The only change you're making is that little bit of word.
I am, because that's the motion that I
Okay.
seconded. I just asked for the one word to be added. So that was the motion I seconded. So that's why I said we've got two separate things now, because
Okay.
we've got to go with the motion on the table.
So process question. So if the first motion is voted on, and if it fails, does my second motion get considered, or is the whole thing done?
You would have to introduce your own ordinance with a new ordinance number, get it seconded, and then would be voted on, I guess, 30 days
Okay.
later, or roughly.
So let me, if I may,
Oh, yeah,
let me
no
finish.
problem,
So given all that, and what I heard Councilmember Galletti say, Councilmember Reed say about workshopping this, moving forward, so is another motion that could be made is to postpone this and workshop it.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then bring in your red lines.
And then we could discuss this red line and other options in the workshop.
Correct.
So how would that, is that a new motion, or can I modify my,
So you would
My
have,
motion?
no, so you've got a motion on the floor, you could.
I need a second for the new amendment, though.
Well, I
For,
thought-
for her motion, there was no second yet.
That's the one I seconded with the change.
With the change, I need approval for that, though, right?
No, I thought she was the movant with one change.
Okay.
I thought there was a second to that motion. Am I incorrect about that?
I don't think there had been just yet.
Okay,
Dude,
I second with the one change.
okay, so let me stop there.
yes.
Councilwoman Reed, do you accept the amendment proposed by Councilwoman Coletti?
I do accept the amendment.
Okay.
okay.
this is
So now that's what's on the table.
There is there could be an intervening motion to either table or postpone. I understand that you would want to postpone so that you're not stuck with what's here the next time.
Right.
So if you make that motion, then that would need a second, and there would be discussion and vote on your intervening motion to postpone.
So when would I introduce the intervening motion?
Right
Now?
now.
I would like to make an intervening motion to postpone 2022-30 and take it to a workshop to further consider some of my concepts for funding the police station.
Is there a second on Councilmember DeMonor's motion?
I'll second it, but with the request that we do it sooner than later.
I'd like to do it before the end of the year.
Sorry.
Sorry, was that,
I gotta jump in
sorry,
here.
was that out loud?
I gotta just jump in here really quick, because you all said you were not available to do our team building workshops over the holidays because you were too busy. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm not available between now and the holidays for that.
It was an expression of commitment.
Council, may I say something, or should we vote on all this first? Let's just
It's
vote on all
already been-
this.
It's already been seconded. So the motion on the table is to postpone this and to schedule a workshop. I will put on the agenda to schedule a workshop in December, at which point during that town council meeting, we will schedule a workshop
Do we need to vote on
We
that?
have to vote
Need to
on
vote on
that
that.
second, so we have to vote on his second.
Yeah,
You can
Just-
entertain discussion on the pending motion, which is now the motion to postpone.
correct.
Or we can
Once
just
that discussion is
approve it.
over, you
Right.
can call for a vote on that motion.
That's what I'm getting ready to do.
Yes.
Okay. It's already been seconded. Councilwoman Reed seconded. All right,
I'm ready to vote.
I'm ready to vote.
Discussion.
go ahead.
First of all, as currently the chief financial officer of the town, I mean, I'm not going to get in the weeds on it, but it is a little bit upsetting that you two and the council are coming up with this proposition, and never once have you sat down with me and talked about what you're trying to do. You did schedule a meeting with staff, which I greatly appreciate, and staff provided you with the information you needed. And then after that, you still never came to me to talk about this. But there is a reason why the reserves have been dropping, and I think it's something that, that is significant. Thank goodness for ARPA, because ARPA came in here and basically bought us about 2 years of having a pretty good budget. The police station does, of course, exist as a priority, and I do want to set money aside. That's why we set the impact fees back at the beginning of the year. So whenever development does occur, because development is inevitable, then we will start putting money toward that police station. So I'm okay with taking this to workshop, but this is the first time that I have seen it. The staff, to my knowledge, has not seen it. Have they seen it? No, so they're,
Whoa. Just a point of clarification.
yeah,
The original ordinance has been introduced, it was introduced at a previous council
Yes.
meeting. I'm simply bringing an amendment that I brought to this council meeting, and that's what I've discussed, so.
okay. And I'm good with taking it to a workshop, but I've sat with the town administrator for quite a while and talked about the reason why the reserves have been depleted, the reasons why we have not gone in there and set up a longer-term lease with the police station. We've also talked about alternate sites and strategies that I don't want to discuss, outside of a closed meeting, because there is some wheeling and dealing that needs to occur. But anyway, take it to workshop. I think that's fine, and we'll see what comes out. But with the reserves going down, I hope we don't, hamstring ourselves too much, knowing that creating a police department will most likely require us to get a municipal bond to get the job done. So, okay, thanks.
Okay. We're getting ready to vote. Is that okay? Do you have a discussion?
I just got to say, this is a tangled web of everything, and honestly, I'm going to abstain from this sucker because I don't even know what the heck we're doing right now. There's always opportunity costs with money, and quite frankly, this is one of the perfect examples why the council should not have budgetary setting authority, and it should be left in the hands of the executive. So I'm going to abstain from this one because, quite frankly, a $2,750,000 hit to anything is substantial. $500,000 a year is substantial. I'll agree with the 9-year or longer because I believe Mr. Thompson and I were just having some conversations on the side about it, and I believe he came up with, commented it's $10,000 a square foot for a public safety building. So by roughly setting, it is $5 to $7 million for the building or more. I can kind of agree with maybe setting a line item and start looking at it, but there are other ways of accomplishing this than painting ourselves into a corner and really basically blowing up the budget. And I'm sorry to say that the mayor that created the police force should have been setting money aside since the beginning of the police force, and we shouldn't be having to blow up the budget now for it.
All right.
So I'm going to abstain from this one because it's too tangled for me to even figure it out at the table.
All right.
I got one, can I make one comment on what something Councilmember Munder just said? Before we vote, obviously, because we got to vote, we need to move on. When we set a workshop, it needs to include the mayor and it needs to include our accounting staff, correct? Do you have a problem with that, Mayor?
Yes, Katie needs to be there because, truth of the matter is we're going to be putting money in there that we have to roll over every year at the end of the fiscal year. So there's logistics to be evaluated. But I mean, I totally agree. It's responsible to set some money aside and get ready for this. For a couple of years, we had $400,000 that we were putting in there. And, like I said, thank goodness for ARPA, but we do need to have a strategy. I'm not sure this is a strategy, but I'm for postponing it and I'm not available either, because I was available for civility, but I don't think I'm available for this.
Okay.
So real quick, the point, if anything, this has brought to light that we need to prioritize our projects and we need to find funding to build the police department, not in 10 years, now.
Just a quick comment too. Were you watching the workshop at the planning workshop? Because we were kind of discussing the same thing as lack of CHIP programs are viable, and we are not knocking the current mayor or anything, but it's just, it does fit into what we were discussing. So I just think timing is everything too, a little bit on this. But, and again.
Time to vote.
I've been ready.
I'm ready.
You guys make this meeting long. All right. All those in favor to postpone ordinance 2022-30, and then we'll put it on the agenda for December to schedule our workshop. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'm going to
Nay.
abstain, nay,
And
no, abstain.
Councilmember Munder abstains. You got it. Full house. Okay. Next up, letter H, ordinance 2022-33. This is a budget amendment to purchase a mower for $11,000. This is for introduction. I'll introduce. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Munder seconds. We'll see this next month. Next, letter I, ordinance 2022-34. This is to convey town-owned real property in exchange for transfer of real property for the purpose of designing and constructing a roundabout. This is the second property. This is for introduction and to schedule a public hearing. I will introduce this. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Galetti.
I was
Quickly seconds.
Roundabout, Carl.
I was not even going to
Roundabout.
jump in front of you, Lynn, on this one.
December. And what do I got? 6:20, 6:40, 7 o'clock.
12/5, right? December at 7.
What time?
7. This one's at 7, but you got to be here at 6:20. Sorry. Letter J, never mind.
Yeah, we did that one.
We're moving to unfinished business. Councilwoman Galetti already emailed the task force report. Councilwoman Galetti, in that email, you stated that you were going to give a report, but if there's anything really substantial at this point, I would please just be mindful of time.
I would actually like to have Larry Valet come up just to ask if you all looked at the report? Because thank you for getting it to me. I did get that to them yesterday. So you've had 24 hours to look at it. Do you have any questions on the Flatiron report? Because a lot has been happening. You want to give a quick recap on fundraising?
Yeah, absolutely. I could give
Can you give a quick recap on
I will.
everything that's happened since?
Council President, members, Mayor, thanks for having me.
Quick.
Very quick. We've had 4 meetings since we were first established. Since our last reporting period, we've grown by 10%. We currently have 33 members under 6 subcommittees. Due to fundraising efforts, we've currently reached $14,950. The engineering subcommittee conducted an inspection of the building with the town engineer and provided an updated report, which is included with your report. Silman Associates of Washington, D.C. is a structural and preservation engineering firm. They have committed to providing this committee with pro bono subject matter expertise, which we believe is excellent. We met with their local engineer on October 18th. We examined the building with all the objectives in mind, and Silman is going to provide a summary report on a variety of issues, and particularly a flow chart process for both the town council and the committee members to basically assess the contingencies under historic preservation versus adaptive reuse. I think that would be helpful, and I could provide those reports later when we get that back from them. Preservation Maryland, our initiatives manager, on October 14th has offered to seek out pro bono legal services to help us flush out some ADA structural requirements for different uses of the building. The town engineer on October 25th gave the committee a excellent and detailed presentation about exploring options and the feasibility of actually moving the building, and discuss the extent of other town improvements that could be accomplished at the same time. And then the committee chair and myself, I was graciously invited and gave presentations during the reporting period on the history and future of the Flatiron Building to the Mount Airy Rotary Club and the Kiwanis Club. So I thank them for that. Quarterly, we want to continue with our efforts, and I'll provide you updates as needed.
And the next meeting is November 16th at Town Hall at
Correct.
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
Thank you. That was going to be my question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Test. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Council President, a
Yes.
quick follow-up question, probably more appropriate for town staff. What is the status of the structural engineering assessment, and when do you anticipate having a final report?
So they just did the core samples through the wall. They also did some ground penetrating radar, the GPR study through to see where what they could find on rebar in the walls. I will say some have rebar and some do not. So, but that study will come out. So they've completed I think they've completed most of the on-site things, so they just need to write the report and return it to us. So the ones doing the core samples, they need to take the samples to the lab. They get, different tests put on them, but basically they crush it and find out some other things about it. They give a report to the engineer. The engineer will finish their report and give it to us. So I'd imagine a few weeks it'll take to finalize those reports.
So it'll be the entire results from all destructive and non-destructive sampling. It'll be one final report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a kind reminder that both parties, all parties involved, will get that report at the same time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. We're going to move to schedule of charter amendment workshops. Our next charter amendment is centered around 2021-6. This is the removal of mayor and council members and filling of vacancies. So we will, I guess, somehow schedule this workshop in January. Does that sound somewhat appropriate? Okay. So if we can take a quick gander, please.
Well, I know that January 2nd's open, but hey. Sorry, I'm trying to be funny. It's a long night. 9th, 10th. What was that?
No suggestions? All right.
I mean,
I would ask to go into the second week of January because I won't be in the country the first week.
Okay. 17th?
I would
What day is
respectfully
that?
request no, because that's beautification, and the last two charter
10th?
amendments have been that day.
January 10th? Yeah. I'm okay.
10th works. Is there anything the second Tuesday of the month, Holly?
I can't see the
Shouldn't,
calendar on my phone.
it shouldn't be. Normally, it's not. I mean, we've got the council the 9th. The second week is normally kind of light on commission meetings, I think. So I can't think of anything.
So the 10th pending
Mr.
no
Mayor?
other commission.
Yeah, I won't get my schedule for January until like December 9th. So just schedule what you're going to schedule, and I
Okay.
might be able to schedule
Check
around
on
it.
the next
So.
meeting.
I might be able to schedule myself to be in San Diego
Awesome.
on that day.
Say hi for us. Okay. Let's go ahead and put it on the books for January 10th,
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Sound good? Thank you for your time and opening up your calendars. All right, we'll move to our reports, and we'll begin with the mayor. Mr. Mayor, your mayor's report, please.
All right, thank you, Council President. I'm going to start from the bottom of my report and work my way up. So Election Day is tomorrow, so get out there and exercise your vote if you haven't voted already. The Christmas parade is going to be on December 3rd, so that's before our next council meeting. So just realize that on December 3rd, not only will we have the parade, but we have Santa Claus scheduled to hang out in the caboose for a while that weekend, and I believe we have them scheduled the weekend after. So there should be a couple of opportunities as well. It is the month of Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. It's also the month of Veterans Day, so please remember to take a moment and thank all those who have worn the uniform in an effort to serve our country. Let's see, on October 24th, I reviewed the annual audit for fiscal year 22 and provided inputs and turned the process back over to the staff. So the audit has been completed, and it's available for, is it printed out yet? No? Okay, all right, so hard copies aren't here, but it is coming, okay? Let's see, I don't believe anyone else will touch on this, so I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but congratulations on a very successful, actually Lynn was there making strides. Worked out pretty good, Councilwoman Galletti? Good, okay, all right, so.
They had a huge turnout.
Great, great. Unfortunately, I was, let's see, that's the day that I ended up getting sick. So couldn't be out there for that one. Staff has finalized the application for the renewal of our 5-year Sustainable Communities Action Plan. That'll provide us the opportunity to get neighborhood revitalization grants such as the community legacy grants. Spooky Trail was a huge success. We know at least 500 people went through the caboose because we gave out 500 wristbands. And for not having a trail to walk down, everybody had a great time in the rail yard. So congratulations to the staff and MAMSA for putting on a great event. As well, Larry Valet, and if Wayne Evans is still here, I mean, what a great job doing the spooky haunted ghost trails. That was a terrific fundraiser for the Historical Society and a lot of fun. And the bus tour was great too. So if Adele is watching, she did an excellent job on the bus tour as well. So congratulations to the Historical Society. Rails to Trails.
Mayor, can I add something about that bus tour?
Yeah, go ahead.
Since we went on it?
Yeah.
That needs to be done again, and anybody who hasn't done it, you would be shocked at why we need a police station in this town if you go on that tour. I'm just saying, it was an eye-opener. This was a town of people, there's dead bodies all over this town. People used to shoot people and they'd fight, and we know they were building a train station. But if you get a chance, do that, and you'll never question why we need a police station or a police department.
What do we need the Ghostbusters?
Tons of stories of people who died in terrible ways, and we have no idea where they're buried. So, Rails to Trails. The boardwalk is darn near complete, and I think they're putting, Barney, are they putting down the asphalt this week?
I sure hope so. It didn't happen today.
Yeah, okay, all right. So once the asphalt's done, then essentially the whole trail is complete. They just have to clear out the debris and everything. And I would never tell you to go out there and walk on it until the construction is over, but wink, wink. Might be worth a look to at least get back there and poke around. The boardwalk's beautiful, the concrete refinements that they made, and you can still walk through the old 1838 rails down at the end closer to Watkins Park. So that is terrific. As well as this side of Main Street, the remediation should start pretty soon. I'm bringing in the clean dirt to put over the dirty dirt so that we can encapsulate the arsenic that is in the soil and remediate that and put asphalt on top of that. So hopefully by late spring, might be able to walk on that side. Then all we got to do is get together with the cold storage part of that. And then we'll have a trail that connects from Watkins Park all the way into Village Gate. So congratulations to the staff for working so hard on that and being very creative in finding all the funding to not just acquire the land, but remediate all the contamination issues and get the boardwalk done and everything. You guys have done a terrific job. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Going to Recreation and Parks Board, Council Secretary Reed.
Yep, the Recreation and Parks Board met on October 20th. We had 2 guest speakers. The first was Kylie and Angel Colbert. They are the founders of a nonprofit named KIC Cares. These are 2 very young girls advocating small acts of kindness for sick children and their families. These 2 young ladies are hosting Harvest Hustle 5K Color Run this coming Saturday, November 12th at Watkins Park. This event is co-hosted with the Lactation Room, which is a local Mount Airy business. This is a free 5K, but the event hosts are accepting donations for the Carroll County Birthing Circle. At the meeting, the board approved the use of color powder for the run. The second guest speaker was Zoe Moxley. She is also another young lady in the community who is working to host a movie night at Twin Ridge Elementary to help victims of Hurricane Ian. They came before the board to ask for permission to use the town's movie equipment, and the Recreation and Parks Board did approve the use of town equipment for that. The board is waiting for a date of the event, so more information to come. Kyle Hastings is working on his Eagle Scout project. I mentioned he wanted to install a bike rack in downtown. We did put him in contact with the owner of the bank building, and that project is moving forward. They've been working together to find a location. The board was notified that the Tesla software in the charging stations at Watkins Park need to be updated. Quite frankly, the board and I were lost as to who to contact to get that done. So we're trying to research how we get that software updated. Barney, would you, I mean, aside from the obvious, Tesla, but do we have a contact?
Elon's on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll shoot him a message. Yeah.
If there's help left.
The board has been working to get lights installed at the pickleball courts on Prospect. It's my understanding that those lights were on back order, so town staff is exploring other options. The community garden, the season has ended, but the board is encouraging people to keep gardening if they want to go out there. The board is also trying to go back to in-person meetings. I know that Chairman Regal has been working with you, John, I guess in CMC, so that the meetings can still be broadcast live. Once those details are worked out, I think the board is anxious to get back to in-person. Ongoing, the skate park, we didn't receive any update. Windy Ridge multi-use trails, they've had numerous work days with a healthy number of volunteers. A reminder that volunteer hours hold a monetary value when applying for grants. The organizers of the multi-use trails did hear from the Recreational Trails Program Office, and unfortunately, we did not receive the grant this year, but they're hopeful to get it next year. Our next meeting is November 17th, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll move to EDC and Planning. Councilmember Munder.
All right, mine will be quick because I was somewhat unable to attend both the Planning Commission and EDC meeting because I was out of town on vacation. But I do can give some minor updates. The Planning Commission meeting was held on 10/24. They discussed 2 topic items. One related to a fuel tank special exception request over at King Sports, which I believe was denied to them due to some related site issues. And they also talked about a amendment to the MXUCC ordinance related to certain allowed and not allowed uses in the UCC district. The next meeting should be November 28th at 7 p.m. here in Town Hall. And during that time, I believe the Planning Commission is scheduled to hold elections. So we will see what happens. The EDC meeting, I believe, was held on October 26th down here at Town Hall. Due to some recent changes in membership, Donna Marie Needle is again president of the EDC with Ray Miller as secretary. So I do echo the mayor's call out to the public for anyone that wants to serve on EDC. Please submit an application. We do need some more members to it. The next meeting, if anything hasn't changed, maybe November 30th, but please stay tuned to the town's website for any updates on the meeting date for that. That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move to recycling and sanitation in Mount Airy Main Street Safety Task Force. Councilmember Demeter.
All right, thank you. So Recycle and Sanitation Commission, our last meeting was held on September 21st. Our next meeting will be held this Wednesday, November 9th, 7 p.m. A couple noteworthy items. As Chief Reitz mentioned earlier, the commission helped to organize and implement the Drug Take-Back Day on October 29th in conjunction with the police department. Again, 2 yard waste bags full of medications were collected, and the public seemed appreciative that we continue to hold those events. In coordination with the mayor and town staff, the commission is working on improvements to the downtown trash and recycle center. Plans for improvements to the center include new fencing, signage, and addressing overuse and misuse issues as part of that. A couple reminders: food and plastic bags should not be included in your recycling bin. And a reminder to keep grass and leaf clippings out of the streets. This is the busy time for leaf raking and mulching, and we want to keep those out of the streets so that it's not slippery and people slip and bike riders slip and such. Another reminder, due to the Veterans Day holiday on Friday the 11th, the Nottingham neighborhood and the Frederick County side of Mount Airy will have their trash picked up on Saturday, November 12th. So make a note of that. Next yard waste pickups are November 19th, December 10th. Main Street Safety Task Force. We held our last meeting on October 13th. I want to thank all the members, the MAPD, thank the mayor for his participation and support that he's providing with town staff. The main topics were presentations by our police department on traffic surveillance and enforcement trends on Main Street from 2019 to 2022. The police department also presented their strategy for additional patrol time on Main Street and how that dovetails to our other initiatives, and the task force approved of that plan, and that plan is now underway. We discussed educational materials that we're working on. The goal is to have a pamphlet or a brochure that would be handed out by the police to speeders and such on Main Street at first and then beyond. We worked with the mayor and town staff and MAPD to complete an application package for a permit with MDOT to install a long-term educational speed radar display sign on Main Street. So we checked all the boxes, got the permit together, and delivered that to MDOT District 7. So we'll be waiting, hopefully, to get that permit approval. Continuing to network and follow up with our state MDOT representatives in District 7. They are conducting their own speed study on Main Street, and the latest update is we may possibly have results of their speed study sometime in December. And again, this speed study they are conducting is part of an evaluation in response to our request to potentially have the speed limit changed on Main Street. So We're engaging with the state, they're doing their studies, and we'll see where that takes us and if we're successful. And our next meeting is later this week on November 10th at 4 p.m. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Councilwoman Galletti with Streets and Roads Beautification and Flatiron Task Force, but you already gave that one, so.
So I don't have anything new for Flatiron Task Force. Larry Valet gave that, and you've got the 2 emails to look through. Just a lot going on, and they're moving and they're doing stuff. Streets and Roads, we did not meet in October because we meet every other month. So our next meeting is November 29th, 7 o'clock. It's going to be via Zoom. We did come back to Town Hall. A couple members couldn't make it, got sick. And the only citizens, we didn't have any citizens that night unless the mayor came. So we're going back to Zoom so that we can make sure we've got that to be on Zoom, to be on Facebook, to be able to maybe reach more public. I saw a lot of citizens. I have my note to say I see a lot, but a lot of them left. They're getting involved, and I think that's fantastic. I think everybody here served on a commission of some sort before we ever ran for office. So I'm hoping the citizens that are getting involved out there are going to volunteer for a commission. We have openings on our commissions, and we need volunteers, and it's a great way to get yourself involved and find out what's going on in town. Beautification met on 11/16 at 7 o'clock. There a lot going on because they're winterizing, getting ready. The new ornament will be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. And November 28th at 4 o'clock is the menorah lighting at the train station. So be prepared for that. So the next meeting there's no meeting in December for beautification, but you can follow them on Facebook because they do fantastic work and you can see everything they're doing. January 17th, 2023 in Town Hall. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was we went to the MML conference in Annapolis in October. So I attended with the mayor, Councilmember DeMotor, and Munder were there. And Councilmember Munder and I attended a graduate class on cybersecurity, which was pretty eye-opening. Yeah. So that was good to see. It was really informative. And at the MML annual meeting, I represented Mount Airy. Nobody brought it up, so I will. I was a parliamentarian at the dais during the MML annual meeting. The mayor took some pictures of me sitting up there. So that was kind of cool to represent Mount Airy. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I will go with my report for water or sewer as well as sustainability. We met water and sewer last week. We went over precipitation as well as POE, which is point of entry, as well as wastewater treatment flows. We also talked and examined the 2023 water sewer budget, as well as the ARPA fund status for everything going on. We also had a lengthy discussion about the Carroll County Geographic Information System, about how public or private that is going to be for our residents. And so we'll keep an eye on that as well. And then our next meeting will be December 7th, water and sewer, at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. We did not have a meeting for sustainability. Our next meeting is December 21st. However, I'm not sure that may happen. So keep an eye out on the website for more information. Tom, Town Attorney report, please.
Sure. Prepared or assisted in preparing ordinances and resolutions on the agenda tonight. I attended the Planning Commission meeting at the end of October. Have assisted with, been having quite a number of Maryland Public Information Act requests lately, so assisted on that. With respect to the annexation, and I'll send out an email to this effect, if any of you have any provisions or conditions that you would want to see in an annexation agreement, supposing you were to approve the annexation, not saying you will approve, but supposing you would, please let me know. By way of example, should we include a condition that the water and sewer plan be amended to essentially move up the priority for that development, by way of example? Are there any road improvements that you would want to see in the annexation plan, by way of example? Lastly, just one action item. This is an item that I forgot to request to be on the agenda. It's short. The council President Poirier was kind enough to allow me to do this during the town attorney report. The town is currently holding a relatively small cash landscaping bond. By that I mean $4,015 for Lot 14, Twin Ridge Industrial Park. The developer essentially never completed some of the landscaping that was required in the approved plans. John and David have already reached out to the developer and in writing notified the developer to either complete the work or face the town taking the bond and doing the work ourselves. We gave the developer until August, I believe, to either complete the work, at least advise when, in short order, the developer would complete that work. We received no response. I believe that John has already gotten a quote to complete the work within the cost of the bond, and we would like to proceed on the bond. Under the PWA, under which the bond was put up, it says that in the event of default, quote, the council, unquote, can take the bond and perform the unfinished work, quote, without notice, unquote. We, of course, went above and beyond and did provide notice, more than that which we were required under the PWA. But as I read the 2003 PWA, it requires the council to essentially move on the bond and authorize the taking of the cash bond. So that's the action that on behalf of town staff, we'd like the town council to approve. That is to say, to approve town staff moving on the bond and using the bond to retain the contractor with the quote that we've gotten to complete the landscaping that was not completed and should have been completed by the developer.
All those in favor of removing the bond from the landscaping company, $15 signified by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Town Tom, I got one question for you, just to clarify out there. You were referencing the annexation agreement. I'm presuming you were referencing the one that we heard tonight.
Yeah, the Buffalo Road. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we have gotten the town administrator report. We have the,
Council President, I have a quick question on the town administrator report, and I see him in the back of the room. May I ask a question?
absolutely.
Okay. It's item 3, planning and zoning. It says, "The chair of the planning board has noted that the master plan will most likely be completed and approved in 2024." Was that the original schedule, or is this, what was the original target?
2023.
Okay.
You want to know why?
Yes.
Too many ordinances that have come in that we've had to work on. Ordinances and text amendments, and we can't move forward until we get all of those things figured out. And then we have to review our portion of the code book because there are very serious inconsistencies in the code book.
Thank you to both responses.
I also want to bring up the memo that you guys have on the Glow Fiber franchise request. And just make sure that you guys have seen it, and if you, I mean, now's a good time to ask David questions about that if you're interested in it.
I just got it tonight, so I didn't really look at it, I'll be honest.
David, do you want to give a quick synopsis on it then? Please.
Sure.
So you can show your tie.
There you go. Oh, that's right.
Who got whose first, David? How old is yours?
I'm older than him, so mine's first.
Okay.
No, the mayor received some inquiries from this company, Glow Fiber Franchise, and asked me to meet with them, which I did. And basically, it is not a startup, but is a company that's working with fiber optics, which, if you all know, is much more reliable, faster, and has all kinds of capabilities. It's what Verizon uses, but my inquiries, when I got here from Doc O'Brien with Verizon, they just aren't getting out here. They're not coming this way. This company is coming from Ohio and Pennsylvania, is heading this way. They're in Frederick right now, and they reached out to us. We're the next logical step. In this, I have some of the things that I think are positives. The fact that it's going to cost the town nothing except for some engineering time and some town council time to review documents. Our investment is zero. The benefits are that fiber optics is the wave of the future. It's not the mechanicals that are hanging, that Comcast has, dependability-wise. They are not in the streaming business full-fledged. They have a couple of hotspots they're using their streaming as well as their telephone, but they are trying to become a Verizon-type Fios situation. They need your permission, and that would go through a franchise agreement. They've got copies of our Carroll County franchise agreement with Comcast and our Frederick County Comcast agreements with the Comcast. We were riders on those agreements. We didn't author them. We were a page in the back, and this would allow us to be the masters of our own domain here. We get to tell them what we're going to do and how we want it done, and it will be a franchise with the town directly, which is what happens in Prince George's County. There's 28 franchise agreements, and so if there's any low-hanging fruit that we can grab, we'll grab, and any profits or any residuals will come directly to us. Right now, through our other agreements, we have to write a check to Carroll County to cover this, and so everything that comes through this would be direct. And we're in the process of trying to squeeze every lemon and get all the juice we can for revenues, and this may be one of them. But we're in the preliminary stages, and the mayor just wanted you all to be aware that we're having some discussions. It would require an agreement through Tom, and that we'd have to negotiate. But they're in the process of reviewing what we've given them. We'll let them come back to us, and unless there's a huge objection, then we would tell them, stop, don't waste your time. Otherwise, it costs you nothing to listen.
So this would be similar to an agreement that we have with Comcast, a franchise agreement that we have with Comcast already, and potentially allow some competition to come into the town, which currently it's Comcast and DirecTV, which Comcast really rules as far as that service goes. So just for the public to be aware as well.
That's it. Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Appreciate it. I have the code enforcement report was emailed to us. The zoning administrator report is provided as well. We have a closed meeting this evening under the authority of 3-305B3 to consider the acquisition of real property for public purpose and matters directly related thereto, South Main Street. At the conclusion of our closed meeting, the council will be dismissed. Let's do a roll call. Councilmember Demoter?
Aye, yay.
Councilmember Munder?
Aye.
Aye. Councilwoman Reed?
Aye.
Councilwoman Galetti?
Aye.
All right. So at the conclusion of our closed meeting, we will be dismissed, and we'll see everyone in December. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.